Before we start, I know there's a lot of citizens that are interested in being heard on this issue. There's a few citizens groups. I'd like to take comments from each of the groups, but we probably don't have time to hear from everybody's passionate comment about it. So if we could get a couple spokesmen to represent the view of each group, that would be very helpful. So we'll start there. I'm going to turn some time over to Mr. Kohler. He's going to lay out the conditional use permit for us. And then we'll head down the road and discuss it.
For the record, can we get a roll call of who was here, please? Thank you.
Paul Royal, Chairman. Dennis Roberts.
Brian Balls. Dallin Kosher. Randy Tree.
Thank you.
So tonight, Light and Power is requesting a approval of a transmission line in the city. The city's portion is just that is a small portion of the entire segment that's being looked at by Heber Light and Power. A very small portion actually, and because of that, much of what the city does should probably mirror what is being done in Wasatch County. Wasatch County Planning Commission last week continued the item and asked for additional studies to be done and for the power company to return in a couple of months. We received some emails today from Mayor-elect who indicate they would like more time to visit with the power company about options for the power line. As staff, we recommend that our recommendation is based on really what the county was working towards, that if the power line is going to be done through the city limits, that we should emulate what is done through the unincorporated county. Given that the decision was continued, it would be our recommendation that anything that's done tonight is for information only, and that the board really look at it as an information gathering exercise tonight. And if you have additional questions that you need the power company to explore in the coming months, as they gear up to come back to you, that you pose those questions to them so that they can go find those answers for you when they come back to you. The power company itself has also asked for no decision to be made tonight, so that it can be an information only session tonight. I'll just get right to the point. On the map, really, for Heber City, this is based on our zone map. You can see this dark purple-blue line represents the portion that, a portion of which is in the city. And you can see that going from Highway 40 over to Muirfield Park is in the city limits. So you have jurisdiction there. It leaves the city limits and would travel along the proposed bypass route and come back into the city limits at the Southfield Park. It would travel east past the Pony Palace to the existing substation, down 650 west to 650 south, and then straight to Midway from that point. And so those areas where there's colors where the board has jurisdiction. In the residential zones, which are the yellow and the orange and the hashed purple, those are the residential zones where it basically says that as a board you have the authority to approve the lines of conditional use. In the commercial zones, they look at it a little differently, either as conditional or permitted use or as a similar use. Either way, the Board of Adjustment would have the authority to review those as a similar use, as a permitted use, or as a conditional use. It certainly is different than what many jurisdictions have. Most Board of Adjustments are restricted to just looking at appeals and variances, and that's what you as a board look at for the most part. This is a remnant in our code from an earlier day when Board of Adjustments had a greater role in approving conditional uses. And most jurisdictions are going away from that, as is Heber, but as of this moment, that is still under your purview, as much as you may not want it to be. So, as of today, it still is in your purview. I think you probably looked at the proposed lines that's in your packet, so I'm not going to take much more time, but I would encourage you to listen to what the petitioner is going to present to you in their proposal, so you can contemplate that and ask any questions you have of them.
Okay, thanks, Tony.
So I have a question for Tony really quick. As a function of the process then prescribed by the ordinance, is this deemed a public hearing, or is this just simply a meeting between the applicant and the board?
Yeah, the process that the city has in its municipal code does not have or contemplate a public input process. This is strictly between you and the board. However, as a board, you can, if you deem in your infinite wisdom, open it up to public comments.
I just didn't know if that was a legislative process prescribed by the government. So.
It's not, but given the emotion of the matter, you may want to, as the chairman suggested, find some.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who's representing Heber Light Power? Please come forward.
Jason Northam, General Manager, Heber Light Power. This is a project we've been working on for several years. The first mile of it was permitted back in, or we got a conditional use permit for it back in 2014 from Wasatch County. It went from the College Access Road down to Coyote Lane, and at that time, the next mile was also permitted. A couple months after that, from Coyote Lane down to roughly 950 to 800 west, or 800 north, sorry. That is currently under construction now underneath that conditional use that was granted in 2014. So this is the rest of the project. Some of it, most of it is in county, some of it is in Heber City, and some of it is in Midway City. The portion through Midway is right near our point of interconnection. So we have our current point of interconnection is on the Midway bench up by the Midway Cemetery. And that's where we, as Heber Light Power, have our transmission interconnection with a Rocky Mountain Power 138 line. And that's the interconnection to us. We pay them a transmission rate. We have several projects throughout the state, even up in Idaho, in which they transmit that energy that is generated at those locations to us. And so they really are, we are a transmission customer of Rocky Mountain Power. So going back to 2012, we're beginning to run out of capacity at that Midway point of interconnect. Our capacity at that particular location is 49 megawatts. The system's peak demand in 2017 hit 40 megawatts. And so we're getting near the point of having that interconnection point, not having the capacity to meet our peak demand. And so in 2012, we submitted a letter to Rocky Mountain Power requesting a second point of delivery so that we could, one, take delivery from either their south 138 transmission system or their north 138 transmission system out of Silver Creek, their Silver Creek substation. And that's when we started working with them. And at that point in time, they needed to get a 138 line down to where we requested that point of delivery, which is right there at the Ray Farrell Power Plant at about 735 west and 300 south. We own about 4 acres between the power plant and the event center. And so right there, we have the Ray Farrell Power Plant substation, and at that substation, we would take delivery from the north. And so, in so doing, we've got to get the line, our 46 kV line, which goes out to our college substation, as well as their 138 line into that new point of delivery. Once we get that point of delivery and get the line rebuilt, then the Heber Light & Power electric system can feed from both the north or the south. And we also have the ability, to split our loads between the two delivery points. So it greatly increases overall capacity for the system. And, you know, it's very much needed. So leaving that, you know, if we can get the line built down into that point of delivery there by the Ray Farrell Power Plant, then we would complete the circuit, leave that point of delivery with the line, take it to 650 South in Heber, and follow our south transmission corridor. We currently have a line coming from Midway to the Ray Farrell Power Plant sub that is, you know, aged, old, and does not have capacity for the whole system. That line in particular has been in our capital plan since about 2008 to get rebuilt, and needs rebuilt. The line is, it was built back in the late 70s, early 80s, and it has capacity right now for about 28 to 30 megawatts, depending on temperatures. So it won't pack our whole system currently when we're on peak. Our north transmission line will pack the system, but if anything happens to the north line, the south line won't pack the whole system currently without rebuilding it. We haven't rebuilt it to this date because we've been working on this project and wanting to rebuild it with this project. So, you know, that's the plan. You know, Tony kind of alluded to where the lines are actually at in Heber City. And, you know, what we're ultimately looking for there is to raise pole heights. There's a small section from Highway 40 to Muirfield Park where we've got to do new construction. You know, we're anticipating those poles to be tangents that will be roughly 80 feet in height, wood, unless steel would be required, either by condition or by necessity to get the proper spacing on these lines. And then leaving the substation, so we come around the bypass and then come down in between the event center and the ball fields on our north line and rebuild it double circuit, come into the substation behind Ray Farrell, and then leave there following behind the train tracks over to 650, and that would all be just pure replacement. We have a 46 kV line in there right now that has poles that range between 55 and 65 feet, and we would be looking to replace those with poles that range in height from 80 feet to 110 feet. The dead ends and angled structures is where we'd have to go steel and increase the height to, that 110 foot mark. The others would be 80-foot wood tangent poles. And, that's pretty much the need and necessity. It's a critical project, especially if, some of Heber C's plans on expansion, possible future annexations are out there. This capacity improvement really has to happen. It really needs to happen. It doesn't take us long at the growth level that we're hitting right now to go from 40 to 49 megawatts. We're thinking we're going to hit 49 megawatts in like 2021 or 2022. And so we would like to have this project finished, completed by the end of 2019.
Okay. Questions?
Does the line that runs on 650 South, past South Field Road, is that there now
Yes.
and across the river?
Yes, it's 46 kV line, yeah. Single circuit. We're looking to take it 46 kV on one side, 138 kV on the other side, so it would be a dual circuit line.
Is the height truly a safety thing or an aesthetic thing, or what is the height?
The height is, it's safety, and that's now the code to build this typical line. And even if we weren't doing dual circuit, we would still have to build a line this high for what we're replacing there now. Back in 2002, when we rebuilt the north line, we increased the heights of those poles and that spacing as well. That's how we have to build it now.
I'm wondering if I can ask some questions as well. I know I'm an extra this evening. Karen, can I?
Is your mic on?
Yes,
I think it is. Okay. I'm Maddie Curry, and I'm an alternate on this committee. And I have done a lot of research since the packet was delivered last week. And I'm going to go back to 2013 and 14 and ask why we didn't follow the Park City Bonanza over the hill in an area where people do not live, where most often high power lines are planted up far away from people, and you don't notice them as much. And I'm wondering why we have brought these into our valley, because aesthetically they are not attractive at all. And of course you're going to a higher pole even, and in the course of events you've gone then from 80 to 75 to 90, I think, and now you're going to 90 to maybe 110. And what would stop us from down the road putting these great big apparatuses in that carry even a larger voltage? And why is it that we're bringing it into a population and not leaving it up in the mountains that aren't inhabited?
Okay, well, currently, Rocky Mountain Power has a 138 kV line that runs from Silver Creek down into the Jordanelle, just past Deer Crest. and then drops down off the hill into their substation and ends at the Jordanelle Dam access road. We had a 46 kV line running up Highway 40 since we built College Substation back in, let's say 2005, 2006 timeframe. We built a substation up behind UVU campus up there. And when that line was built, you know, it served load and brought energy out of that north substation, but we continue to have flashover problems. And that was due to increased traffic on Highway 40, a lot of dust, a lot of contaminants, and the line just wasn't high enough to be above those contaminants, so we were having flashover issues, which were leading to real reliability issues out there. We tried several things to mitigate it through the years, covering it up, you know, taking the spacing out as far as we could with the construction we had, but it didn't solve the problem. You know, and the engineers just basically said, you know, you got to get it higher and you got to get it spread out further. You're going to keep having flashover problems on that highway. So that's why they're there.
So it could not have been brought through the mountain pass from Bonanza, as this report said. It gives us some history. Park City had determined they didn't want it.
I can't talk to the Park City stuff. I can talk to why Heber Power needs it. Rocky Mountain Power is here. They can tell you their need necessity as far as why they need the line down here. I will just say that part of the reason they need the line down here is because Heber Power requested a point of delivery at Rayboro substation. And in order to get that point of delivery off the western grid, which is really what we're talking about here. I mean, we have power projects from Glen Canyon Dam, Flaming Gorge Dam. We get power out of those hydro facilities. We have a wind project in southeastern Idaho. And we also have the Hunter project, which is in Huntington, Castleville, Utah, sorry. And that's a big bulk of like our energy portfolio is, you know, that Colorado River Storage Project energy that's been coming into us since those dams were built. And the majority of it comes right up Provo Canyon into that line. And that's our only feed in right now. The rest we generate here locally.
Okay. I have a couple questions. With this project goes through, you said it'll increase their capacity, looking to go beyond. If we don't do anything, you said between 2021 and 2022 we'll max our capacity. If this project goes in, how long will that last us?
This is a generational project for sure. One, getting that second point of delivery will give us roughly 100 megawatts at that point of delivery of capacity, and then we would also be able to take our midway point of delivery offline and be able to rebuild it to you know, be there for us if, you know, if there's a wildfire to the north that takes out a transmission line, we'd be able to feed from the lower valley on the path we're currently on. If an avalanche or mudslide happened in Provo Canyon, we would immediately be able to feed from this new north line. And we'd also be able to shift load, split load at those 2 points of delivery. So we would go from having 49 megawatts of capacity to over 100 megawatts of capacity.
And so it sounds like part of it's for redundancy, for protection, for
Yes.
natural disasters. Is there a formula of sorts that would say we need, did you call them megawatts? Is that what you call them?
Yeah.
Okay. How many megawatts per population, 10,000 people, or how do you calculate the usage? Like, so if we're at 49 megawatts currently in the, and go for that 100
A typical house uses about a megawatt per month.
per month.
In energy, so 1,000 kilowatt hours.
Okay. So the population of Wasatch County is expected to double by 2040. So what we're looking at doubling could potentially save, we won't have to look at it until 2040. Is that kind of a good estimate, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on load. It doesn't just depend on population.
How many electric cars are out there?
It could depend on electric cars. It could depend on what type of, like, general service customer moves in. A good example.
Or industry comes in.
Industry, right.
Or business
So,
power.
right. A good example would be, like the city of Springville, which is very typical to ours, but they have one customer there that's like 20 megawatts of load. And so, they're sitting at 60 megawatts when really they're about the size of us if you take out one customer away. So one customer can literally come in and take a lot of capacity.
And then my other question is, I had a question about the cost variance between building it above ground and burying it. In here it said $1 million per mile above ground, and then it said 14 million to bury it. And now I've heard all over the board, so from, I've heard that $1 million a mile, I've heard that a lot, but then I've heard from local power or local electric companies here in the valley who install these things that said it's about 4 times as much. So how does it go from 1 to 4 to 14? I don't know what's the actual cost of